a wife a Peloton, which is a stationary bike, for Christmas. It's like a $3,000 bike. She was excited. She did videos, and then all of a sudden, all of the internet police were shaming Peloton because she was a skinny hot model.
Don't fuck with skinny hot model.
Yeah. They turned it into she was in an abusive relationship, that she was scared of her husband, that she needed to stay in shape, and it blew up to a big thing. So Ryan Reynolds and his fine ass decided to get a commercial for his gin company showing these 3 cool chicks at a bar drinking gin as almost like a response of the year that she's had. And we get, and I'll Cassie will show you that ad for aviation. If you want to sponsor
parts
us,
of it.
That'd be great too, because we got a review of one of our listeners that said, I'm glad you posted this ad because I watched it and I immediately thought of you and Cassie when I saw the Ryan Reynolds gin company's commercial.
Amazing.
That's the best compliment ever. And so
absolutely,
it was a really good,
fabulous.
That was a good move on his part, but she's getting so much work, and he's the husband in the commercial has been shamed out of Hollywood, which is so
sad.
ridiculous.
Wow.
I don't think Ryan Reynolds can do anything wrong.
No, he can't.
Literally, he is the best.
No, he can't. So
sits at number 1 for me, nonstop.
Oh
holding
God,
that,
yeah,
holding that spot, holding down number 1 in the top 5.
I'll do it with you. I'll do the deep work with you on that one. So follow us on It Got Weird Pod on IG, Twitter, Facebook. Rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't. And yes, we are having a great time. Any semi-weird, before we get into our goals, any semi-weird things happening right now? Cass, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So just a little recap of my Spain holiday. I have been planning this for 3 months, and it was really crazy last end of the year, and I was nonstop working. I was really ready for my holiday. So we went to Seville, and right before we go to Seville, or Sevilla, if you speak Spanish, sick, really sick. So it's kind of a bummer way to kick it off, because he's wanting to sleep and he's coughing and it's just a hot mess. And we get to Seville, and everything was kind of on the wrong foot. It was just a bizarre way to start holiday. I left my purse on the plane in Seville. So I've never been to this airport. It's a small airport, but I left my purse. I managed to take my other 2 bags with me, but the thing that had my cash, my passport, my Holland residence card, everything I need to survive, I left on the plane. And that was quite the process getting that back. And in a panic, not being able to communicate appropriately, and again, sick and very irritated that I, sorry, Carson, can you get that, Brian? Carson.
I can, yeah. I thought you were back in with, so that's cool. I'm glad you're still Carson.
No, still gone. Can we please pull that? Yeah. I'm reading my notes off my phone, and Carson isn't mentioned.
We're all pros here.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I left my bag. Finally got it back, so that delayed us about an hour. We get the rental car, which is we always rent from Sixt. I don't know if you know. Do you know Sixt?
No.
If you would like to sponsor the show,
Sixt, please sponsor. I always use your rental cars. I never use anything else. So it's a luxury rental car service, and they're the best in Europe. And they give you the nicest, newest cars. The shittiest car you're going to get is a BMW. It's just. They're prime services. Patrick, thank you for all your help on this one. So we get this beautiful new car, this new Audi. It has barely any miles on it. We drive to Granada. It's about a 3-hour drive at that point in time, which was a journey.
I'm starting to think that I'm going to relate to Cassie a lot like I relate to Kevin Hart. Your fucking life does not apply to mine at all.
I almost didn't tell this story because I knew you were going to bitch about it.
I got in my shitty ass 2007
moped
van. I got in my Uber, which was just barely above the,
This is all very affordable. It's in Spain, okay? I don't know if you know this, but Spain is.
I live in Spain, so fuck all y'all.
It's a cheap place to get nice things, okay? I'm continuing my story. So we finally parked the car in Granada where we were staying. Shut up, Patrick.
I'm sorry.
And Carson manages to scrape the entire front right quadrant of the car on a concrete pillar underground.
Ooh.
The entire front right quadrant. So we're talking the plastic, the metal, the wheel bed, like everything got a good marking on it. So we started the day like that. And things like nothing traumatic. That was the most traumatic.
Who was driving?
Carson was.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And what had happened?
Okay, but wait a minute. What if you were driving? How would have that been described? Would you have said I scraped the infernal or we scraped the entire front panel? I'm just curious.
Well, let's see. I'd have to like replay.
We
if he was in the car with me, it probably would have been a we. If I was alone, I would have said I for sure.
So in this instance, when Carson was driving, he scraped the front panel of the car.
Yeah, because it's my credit card that has the rental car. So
makes perfect sense. Okay, I got
all
it.
that work on his own.
We can move on. Yeah.
Which she does not pay for any mails.
This was a collective. This was a household holiday, Miss Jenny. Okay, sorry, I didn't pay for everything. Okay, so you know what? I'm just can't even with you people right now. I can't.
What happened, Jenny? Did you spill your drink?
It's going up my nose. Now I'm bubble water.
No!
Oh my God, I'm losing it.
Oh fuck.
So it was a bummer because right when I saw the front bed of the car turning, I reached my hand out in efforts to say, "Oh, the pillar," like something indicator, because he clearly wasn't looking in that direction, and it was like,
and it's done well.
And then I sat there with my arm extended, like a statue, like just in hopeless. It just felt terrible. It just felt terrible. I don't know what those damages cost. I was like, great, just not fun. Anyway, nothing super. That was the most traumatic thing that happened on a holiday. There's a bunch of other little things that accumulated, but just the kickoff of that holiday was there was busted wine. There were swimsuits that barely fit. There was a lot of sweating. There was, just all the horrendous things.
Sweating. Can you tell more about that?
Yeah, I don't like to sweat against my will. And we went to a sauna and it was much hotter than I anticipated. And it was very uncomfortable. I didn't like it. So there's a lot of sweating. That's so for further detail on the sweating.
So Cassie, here's a question. I'm curious because like we all go on like bad trips. I mean, like there's times whenever you travel and stuff and it just doesn't go the way you want it. Mm-hmm. Do you have a coping mechanism where you're like, okay, this is how I'm going to, because sometimes I just like start looking for shitty things to make fun of. Like, I mean, like once it's gone bad, I'm just like, all right, I'm in it. I'm just going to find the best in all of this. And usually I just end up laughing at other people and stuff. What do you do to cope with bad trips?
Laughing at other people is hard to do in a separate country because there's so many cultural differences. Like not all the humor is the same. Like it's hard to do that. But I order a bottle of wine. I go find a bottle of wine, take a deep breath. I'm like, okay, let's reset. But there was just this like kind of lingering. And also this whole week it rained the whole entire week. We're in Spain. It doesn't rain that much in Spain. So it was like, let's go for a nice walk. Let's go get a glass of wine. And then you go outside and you get rained on. We found wine. There's wine everywhere in Spain, luckily. But it's just, for me, it's just like, try to hit the reset button.
Yeah.
Hope nothing else comes your way. But it was just a very bizarre way to start this holiday. I'd been planning for like 3 months and was beyond ecstatic to be on. Like there's just this like funny little blanket of inconveniences and...
You know what's funny when you brought that up, Brian, as far as that when you said when a trip goes bad, I thought of Vegas, which we talked a little bit about, I think, a couple episodes ago. And I had no desire to ever go back after that trip. And we kept saying, it's okay. Fuck it. It's just money. At this point, let's just, okay. It's okay. Yep. That's just money. And it was just fucking stupid. But then this week, Vince comes to me and says, if we plan it next time, I think I'd like to, at some point, I'm willing to try Vegas again. And I looked at him, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I never thought he'd say it, but it's so soon. It's so soon, especially for him.
Well, I know this is weird coming from a Gen Xer. Like I'm like on the older scale here.
Okay,
But like
boomer.
I'm not a boomer, I choose to not plan. Like outside of travel and like a place to stay, I try not to plan at all.
No, I have holidays like that too. Like this is one of those holidays. Like I knew where we were staying. Great. I knew how we were going to get there. I knew when we had to leave. But other than that, like I didn't put any other effort into planning. Like we're like, maybe we'll see a flamenco show. Maybe we'll go do this, but let's just see how things go when we get there. Which again, like all the crucial details are planned. Same thing.
But then you rip the front end of a BMW off and you're just done.
It really is hard to come back from that one,
Yeah,
especially at the top of the day. You're like, I don't even know now. Like I just lost some hope on that.
And here's the deal. In my marriage, I have always been the detail planner for especially for trips. And I get almost ridiculed and just like poked at by my husband. Like he's like, damn it, you're planning like, God, you're planning all this shit, blah, blah, blah. So this was the one time that I said, fuck it, we're going to do a spontaneous thing. And it went so poorly that he was like, I will never give you a hard time for planning shit. And it just ended up working in my I mean, it was a shitty weekend, but it worked out for so many reasons. And he was like, I just won't give you a hard time. I understand your planning has a purpose and saves us money and gives
it worked out for one reason, for him to validate your planning obsession. That's what you're saying.
Yes. That's the only benefit of that whole.
That's like Cassie saying that that he wrecked the car as opposed to we wrecked the car, depending on who's driving.
He did wreck the car.
He did. He did. Wow. Well,
so there's some weirdness for you.
Yeah, the only thing weird going like I was trying to go through our text messages because I try not to talk to you about anything.
I know. I need to get better.
And try to save it. But if we could record more than twice a month, then it might work out. But the only thing that I can think of, my daughter is in gymnastics and we go to this dumb meet. And we used to we were off for like the last 2 years going to this meet. But what they do is while they're tallying the scores at the end of the meet before awards, they'll call down a parent from each gym. So there's about 10 gyms that are at this meet at the same time. So they will call the name of one of the gymnasts and a parent has to go down. And they usually do something embarrassing like a dance competition or a handstand competition or whatever.
I would absolutely loathe that.
Yeah. So for 6 years, I think, I have dodged this bullet. And I think that this is my daughter's probably last year doing gymnastics competitively. And she's trying to just whatever, end on a good note and before she focuses on soccer. So they tell us that we're going to this meet this year and they do the competition, whatever. And I'm like, all right, maybe they're going to wrap this up and not do what they used to do years ago because we haven't been here for 2 years. And the woman goes, well, in tradition, we're going to need some volunteers. And I'm like, fuck. And I said, what are the odds? I bet this is the fucking year, my last year, the dodging it. And the very first person that they call is my daughter's name.
Oh, fuck.
And I'm like, fuck. And I say it. And parents, like other like moms are looking at me. They're like, what? I'm like, I'm so fucking
You're like, are you
this.
new here? Because this isn't a fun thing for anybody.
Is Vince at this? Is Vince at this shenanigan? Oh my God. Does Vince have video?
We do have a couple of angles of videos.
There's a God. There's a God.
I debated whether or not to bring this up. So I go down there and I am cussing the whole, because I have to go downstairs through crowds of there's probably a couple hundred people at this event, probably a few hundred parents, whatever. Get down to the gym floor and I look at my daughter's team and my daughter's coach and I say, we're never coming effing back here again. Like, this is our last year. And she goes,
say your goodbyes.
I was like, this is gonna, and so in my mind, I'm like, they're like, okay, we're gonna do a couple of rounds of dancing.